Welcome to the Sportscast from the Queen City. From the Queen City, we're your hosts, Steven,
Zach.
and we're going to talk about the Bengals getting a primetime win in the Big Apple, a new potential NCAA rule after Oregon and Ohio State, and some Heisman talk. So we're going to start off with the Bengals. They got a primetime win on Sunday Night Football against the New York Football Giants. Um, there was a long touchdown run by Joe Burrow, some plays made by Trey Hendrickson against top tackle Andrew Thomas. Uh, T. Higgins being a very productive receiver ever
Mike
since he came
Hilton.
back from his injury. And Chase Brown got a touchdown he wasn't supposed to score. Uh, so that's pretty much the gist of what happened. Um, I do kind of wonder. I know that the offense is still humming for the most part. They did play against a really good defense that features Brian Burns, who I forgot
Yeah.
was on the Giants.
Yeah. How do you think I
Even
felt watching that game and hearing his name called within the first 2 minutes?
um, I know that the offense is humming. The defense is still a work in progress. Brian Burns, obviously great player on the New York Giants, and they did a lot of they kind of wreaked a little bit of havoc against the Bengals offense, even without Kayvon Thibodeau. And so it was pretty much the Brian Burns show, uh, putting a lot of pressure on Joe Burrow, uh, and kind of forcing the receivers and Joe Burrow to pretty much operate in a quicker fashion.
Yeah. I will say that Brian Burns definitely, I think, felt played a part in Joe Burrow feeling the need to get the ball out quick. Um, Even though I think he's improved through the season so far of not spending too long in the pocket. I know he's done it a few times in some games. It just feels like he shouldn't be, but he is. And maybe that's him just trying to buy time for his receivers, but it doesn't do well being a former offensive lineman. They're doing their best to keep the guys away, but if you hold it longer than the 3 seconds it should be in the pocket, it starts breaking down. And not that all O linemen get tired, it's just the fact that, like, after a certain amount of time in a pass protection, O linemen can only do so much before the defensive lineman just gets to the point where they're saying screw it and just go all crazy about getting off of the block. Um,
There's too much
Chase,
talent on the edge
yeah,
to
yeah.
hold on to the football.
I will say Chase Brown played a heck of a game. He did very well. Zach Moss wasn't terrible, but like the more I saw of Chase Brown in that game, Chase Brown just looked very good in the game as a whole. Just, aside from the fumble that they didn't lose, which, you got to hold on to the ball tighter, but also the defense did a good job of swiping down at the right time. Um, he just impressed me.
I think this was a continuation of Daniel Jones, still not completing a passing touchdown at home, which is a quite a remarkable stat for a quarterback. It's really odd, and I'm not sure how that's possible.
Um, I mean, I saw the play that he threw the incompletion to, which basically iced him out of the game. And I think all of it boils down to him just not reading stuff fully. Because the play that he threw it to the receiver that Mike Hilton kind of in the back of his head knew that he was going to, his other receiver that was coming behind him was wide open. And if he would have completed the pass to the open receiver, they would have had possession for a first down and they could have stopped clock and just kept rolling and trying to get a touchdown. But I think a lot of it boils down to him just not being able to read stuff or see the defense the way that he should be. Wandale
think,
Robinson, a former Kentucky receiver, is one of the faster receivers, and I'm surprised at how little he's, used him. I know he's got Malik Neighbors, so obviously he's going to be the favorite target,
well, he
but
didn't play. Malik Neighbors was injured.
I just mean throughout
Still
the
without
season so
concussion.
far up to this game.
Well, he kind of spread it out quite a bit. Because Darius Slayton, they got quite a bit of uh speedy receivers to really push the field down. I think some of it's his footwork, and some of it him just like not placing the ball in a spot where only his guy can get it. I saw a couple passes that were acceptable, but like marginable. Uh, they were just behind the receiver, just enough for the Bengals defensive backs to knock the ball loose quite a few times.
Yeah, I will say that Cam Taylor-Britt did perform better this game as opposed to the previous games. He had a much better game this week than he did in weeks before.
I will say
That's
they were targeting him, and
yeah,
they did find success. So
yes.
he's still gonna have to tighten it up. I think he kind of got in the like kind of got like a free week to not get burnt because of the quarterback that he was facing. So I
Well,
think
and I would also say that could boil down to Malik Neighbors not being in too, because Cam Taylor-Britt guards the number one.
yeah, because Darius Slayton, Wandale Robinson, Theo Johnson, and Tyrone Tracy were the uh receiving leaders for the Giants. Jalen Hyatt kind of keeps proving to be pretty ineffective in this offense. But overall, the Bengals beat a team that's uh 0-3 at home, and 2-4. I don't think that they're even in the hunt for a playoff spot.
I don't,
Um,
I don't think they are.
so the Bengals are going to have to keep the momentum rolling, especially this week against the Browns, who just lost a key receiver.
Yeah, I'll be
Amari
honest. The
Cooper.
main, the main thing in my mind was how are we going to stop Amari Cooper? But they got rid of Amari Cooper, and now the only thing is, are they just going to run the ball the whole game? Because I think Nick Chubb's coming up on his return, right?
Yes. Back after a his second gruesome injury in his career. Uh, Kind of fitting in a way for him to come back against his arch rival of the Bengals. Um, I'm not sure what to expect of Nick Chubb coming back on Sunday, but I will say there's a possibility he goes wild because he's just Nick Chubb and he's just that good.
He's going against the
And
worst run defense in the NFL as well. So I'm pretty sure it's the worst run defense in the NFL.
it's one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when I did my predictions last episode, I figured, Amari Cooper still being on the Browns, that's going to be a big thing to deal with. I wasn't even thinking about Nick Chubb. Had they not traded Amari Cooper and kept Nick Chubb, this is a different. I'm probably saying the Bengals could possibly lose, but also the way that Deshaun Watson's been playing has not been the best. So, I'm not gonna say that the passing offense would have been a thing that I was worried about, but Deshaun Watson just hasn't looked good in the pass game all year. But I think Nick Chubb coming back is going to give the Browns a run offense that they desperately need.
Yeah, they're gonna need everyone to kind of really kind of put it together. The only thing I would say regarding Amari Cooper, he's well up until I guess yesterday. He was the leading receiver of the Browns
He was
by
also
two
the leader
yards.
in touchdown scores, and now it's Rodney McLeod, a defensive player.
Yeah, he actually is. Because the next closest receiver is Jerry Judy, uh, who had 2 yards less than him and 17 less targets than Amari Cooper.
That offense, just on paper, should have been better than it was. And Deshaun Watson, honestly, there's got to be something, in the back of his head that's keeping him from playing at a high level. Because the Deshaun Watson we've seen is not the Deshaun Watson we're accustomed to seeing, in all honesty.
Well, especially from when he was on the Texans. Um, he just looks anemic. He doesn't look like a NFL starting quarterback, and definitely not a quarterback that's worth 200+ million, fully guaranteed. So I'm going to move away from the Bengals for a bit, or the Bengals for now, um, or not from the Bengals, from the Browns, and ask you, do you think the defense improved enough to contend with the rest of the AFC North or
I
in the
think it's a
AFC
s-
in general?
I think it's a step in the right direction if I'm being honest. They didn't look great by any stretch of the imagination. But I think it's a vast improvement over, weeks 1 and 2 where they looked okay-ish, maybe good, and then they fell off, and then now they're kind of picking up and performing. They're actually looking good. Like, I'm not gonna say that they looked fantastic because this is like we were saying, this was a Giants team that, they're 2-4. Like what this defense shouldn't have had a tough time, especially with Malik Neighbors out. But they struggled against Tracy, their running back that was catching and running the ball out of the backfield in the game. Towards the end of the game, that scared me the most was if they just kept going to Tracy the whole time.
Yeah,
But
he's a player. He's a baller.
I think I think where the Bengals defense is struggling the most is the front seven. The front seven doesn't have any, I don't want to say motivation, but they're not at a high level like they were in the past, like last year and the year before. Like it doesn't feel like they're generating any kind of pressure up front at all. And, maybe with Sheldon Rankins coming back and BJ Hill coming back, maybe those two just have a fire lit under them and we're going to start generating some good pressure now. Because if we start generating good pressure, then our defense can perform pretty good. Because I think our DBs and our secondary can perform well once there's pressure on the cornerback or on the quarterback. And I think again that's probably the whole league. You could have that mindset, but like if you look at the Bengals defense, the DBs like Cam Taylor Britt has been getting torched on little short quick routes, like the little hooks and maybe the stop and go routes. Like he's just been getting killed on those routes. But if there's pressure getting generated and a quarterback has to throw it quicker to Cam Taylor Britt's side, then he's going to make a play. So I feel like if we can generate good pressure, then I think our defense can come back and be very good. If not, they're just going to be right where they're at right now and just be middle of the road, mediocre.
Um, After Oregon beat Ohio State in Autzen on Saturday night, um, it was confirmed by Oregon head coach Dan Lanning that the 12 men on the field penalty was intentional to burn 4 seconds off the clock, and which some regard as genius, and some fans are regarding as cheating or dirty. And
So let me stop you there. I mean, it's also what Dan Lanning did could also be compared to what Mike Vrabel did in the playoffs against Bill Belichick, can it not, when it came to the punting situation where he ran extra time off the clock?
Yeah, I would
I
say
know it's
it's
the
pretty
NFL
much.
compared to college, but that again, the commentator said it in that playoff game. That's what Bill Belichick did his entire coaching career in New England was stuff like that. And when Vrabel did it to Belichick, Belichick didn't like it, and the Patriot fans and Patriot, supporters, all those people were up in arms saying that it was cheating. But it was the same thing that they were doing before Vrabel did it against them. So it's like it's not, I don't see it as cheating, it's just something that coaches can do to be part of their strategy. Like, it's unfortunate, but I don't think there was anything dirty about it.
Yeah, I think it's just a little bit of using the rules against the rules. You're using the rules to your advantage. Playing it's a little bit of gamemanship. You obviously don't want to like have a big play happen. Obviously, it could have happened. 12 men on the field wasn't super disadvantageous to Ohio State.
No.
They just didn't execute.
If Ohio
And
State would have gotten a first down, I don't think we're having this discussion.
yeah, a lot of it is just clock mismanagement. All they had to do was, well, call a timeout. They had tons of time. They let 7 seconds burn off the clock because Will Howard wasn't aware that the clock was going to run.
He
Neither did Ryan
slid,
Day.
ruined everything.
That slide at the end, he took three too many steps, kind of like Dak Prescott in the playoffs once. Um, but overall, he performed well. So the NCAA is thinking about changing the rules as quickly as this week. Um,
I don't see a point in that. Like, what are you gonna say? Coaches cannot use this against the other team? Like, I don't know what more you can do to that rule. Like, 12 men on the field, it can't happen. What are you gonna do? Add an asterisk where if a coach is intentionally doing it, fine. Like, what are you gonna do to the coach of the team?
I think they wanted to be a dead ball foul and at 15 yards. Um, which is kind of funny because there's
Okay,
all
what was
types.
Ohio State's setup at that point? If they were to make this a rule, Ohio State was what? Third and 20, third and 25, something like that
Uh,
at that point in the game.
they were.
I know it was a decent distance.
It was a decent distance. But it was pretty much 12 men on the field was 5 yards and about like 4 seconds. They still could have ran the play perfectly fine and still gained enough yards. They just didn't do anything with it.
I'm
Um,
just trying to think in terms of them making it a dead ball 15-yard penalty. In
and
terms of that
sportsmanlike.
game, had that been instituted, so then the Buckeyes get 15 yards. It turns into what, third and
Probably
five or
probably a
so?
first down. Probably a first down.
It, it'd be 15 yards from the scrimmage, would it not?
Um, yards from scrimmage.
Because if it was 15 yard from scrimmage and it was third or second or whatever the downage was, and then 20, 25, 15 yards would have made it 10 or 5 yards, however many it was.
Hold on. It was third and 25. It
So
was
it
a
would have
pass.
been third and 10 had they that turned the rule to what they want to change, what they're contemplating changing it to.
Pretty much it would have gave them an easier field goal to kick to like win the game. Pretty much. Obviously fans are going to, use the well, if it was a dead ball, but it should be a dead ball foul, 15 yards, blah blah blah. At the end of the day, there was tons of calls that were either questionable or wrong. OPI was questionable that led them to that. But, some they, it's debatable there, depending on how you interpret it and, who you're a fan of. Um, and there was a call in the first quarter where Oregon looked like they had an interception. It was called a completed pass to the tight end. Uh, it was a ball that, well, the tight end didn't really have the possession of the ball, and the linebacker kind of ripped it out,
Mm.
which would have resulted in a interception. Um, there's also a few fans calling one of the Judkins fumbles a non-fumble, which was not really up for debate. The ball was fumbled. The D line the D lineman didn't even go for the tackle. He kind of just took the ball, and probably the most ridiculous play I've ever seen. I've never seen someone just forgo the tackle and say, "I'm just going to take the ball with me." So,
The one thing I'll say is you've got to, if you're the fan saying that it needs to be a penalty and all this other stuff, you got to put yourself in the shoes of the Oregon fans or the Oregon people or the team that got it done to them. You would react and say the same things as those fans are saying. Oregon fans saying, no, it's not a foul, it's strategy. You're saying it's not a strategy, it's dirty, whatever. But if the roles were reversed, you'd be saying the same thing that the Oregon fans are saying. So for you to complain about it and talk about it and all this stuff, like you gotta look at it and say, well, if we would have done it, I'd be probably saying what they're saying. It's a two-headed coin. It you know, if Ryan Day were to do something like that, you wouldn't be complaining about it. You'd be happy about it. But Oregon would be the reverse. They wouldn't be happy about it. It'd be upset. So you got to think about it in terms of the fact that like these coaches are doing everything that they can, not bending the rules to what they want it to be. The Oregon head coach definitely didn't sit there and read the rules and say, "Oh, I can bend this to my will." He just read the rules and said, "Huh, well, I can use this as a strategy. The rules don't say that I can't." It's just the fact that he strategically did it and Ryan Day didn't, and other coaches have not. He's the first one that I've seen in college do it. It's strategy. That's what football is about. You've got to have a strategy.
speaking of college football, there's two candidates that are high profile and probably the favorites to win. Ashton Jeanty, running back from Boise State, uh, also also known as Michael Myers, and Travis Hunter, the two-way electric defensive back and wide receiver from Colorado. Uh, Earlier today, I saw a clip where Travis Hunter said that even though Ashton Jeanty has 1,000 yards already with 95 carries. He said, "What if I had 95 catches?" Let's be honest, probably would have had more yards, but he also makes plays on the defensive end that is crucial to his team's success. And he's also probably the best player on his team, even with a quarterback that has first round status currently.
Yeah. Um, I definitely think that Travis Hunter's been killing it on both ends of the ball. Um, although it hasn't translated to many wins, like I don't think they've had that many wins. I could be wrong. Could be wrong. I haven't checked in a while. Um, he definitely is a catalyst for them to perform the way that they do. But Mr. Ashton Jeanty, Mr. Michael Myers in the backfield, that that dude's just built different. Like the fact that he isn't even like in an athletic stance in the backfield like most running backs where they're in a position to kind of like sprint off. He just kind of like gets it in a standing position and then just takes off is ridiculous. And I know that
I
doesn't
will
count for
s-
much in the voting or anything for Heisman, but
I will say that Colorado is 4-2. Their only
okay.
losses are to Nebraska with Dylan Raiola. Well, at Nebraska
The
where they were pretty
the
much
Patrick Mahomes
dominated.
cosplayer,
Pretty much they were dominated by Dylan Raiola and the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And then this past Saturday where they lost against K-State, who is a ranked opponent, who was ranked number 18 at the time of the game. Or actually, they're currently number 18, rather.
yeah. I thought they were a game above 500 or at 500, so I was wrong in my thoughts there. But again, I didn't want to just assume. I wanted to just, but yeah, I mean they're 4-2, not terrible. But I think the expectations for the team were a lot higher than what their record is that so far this season. Um, but Travis Hunter hasn't let anyone down. If we're going to be completely candid here, Travis Hunter's been Travis Hunter. Um, this man is just crazy athletic and crazy good at catching the ball.
I will
Um,
say that the Colorado Buffaloes are a good team skill position wise, but up front, they are probably one of the worst in college football. They can't run the ball effectively, and they can't really stop the run effectively.
yeah, that kills anything. The Bengals are a fluke. We're talking NFL, but if you can't have anyone blocking up front, I don't care what level of football it is. If you don't have much blocking, you're not going to do much unless you have a gifted running back or someone in the backfield that is just gifted to just run. You're not going to do much of anything. But Ashton Jeanty, 95 carries and already has 1,000 yards. I didn't know that was what his stats were. I figured he had to be at 1,000, but I didn't know it was 95 carries.
They just pretty much give him the ball every
That
time.
is, I've seen every
Actually,
highlight I think I've
actually,
seen
he
of him.
has
He
more than 95
breaks.
carries now. He has 126 carries, 1,248 yards, and 17 touchdowns with a 9.9 yards per carry.
I was gonna say every time I see a clip of him, he's going 10 to 20 yards. Like he's getting chunk yardage. He's not just getting measly yardage. He's getting chunk yardage. And he's in a
And
standing up position in the backfield, mind you. He's not in the typical running back position. This man is standing straight up and down, just
yeah,
looking at the defense.
he's
As
doing
Patrick Starr
this
would say, he's
against
standing
a
there
variety of.
menacingly.
Yeah, so I'm gonna read some of his yards per game, um, uh, from some of the games this season. Uh, I think this is Georgia Southern, right? Against Georgia Southern, he rushed for 267. Against Oregon, he rushed for 192. Portland State, 127. In which he only had 11 carries, and pretty much they were winning so badly, they took him out of the game. Um, 259 against Washington State, 186 against Utah State, who they also destroyed, and then 217 against Hawaii. So the opponents that he's played isn't horrible, for the most part, especially against Oregon, getting 192 yards and averaging 7.7 with 3 touchdowns.
This man
Uh,
had 150 plus in almost every single game. There was one game that he didn't get to 150.
And that was the game he had 11 carries. And he had a
That
68 yarder.
that is ridiculous. Like Derrick Henry wasn't doing this at Alabama. Granted, it was Alabama, and he had, at that point in time, he had Amari Cooper on his team. He had AJ McCarron throwing the ball. Like he didn't need to do it, but that's ridiculous. I don't think there's been a college running back, excuse me, that has done anything like this before.
Not in a while.
Yeah,
Uh,
like one game that he hasn't hit 150 or more is ridiculous. And it was a game where they were blowing someone out. So he got pulled early. Had he stayed in, he probably would have gotten every bit of two something, almost three. That's just, that's something else.
Travis Hunter's been also fantastic.
Yes, yes. I don't want to take anything away from Travis Hunter. That man has been eating.
He has on the season he has 49 catches, 587 yards with the 12th uh average per catch. That's not even mentioning his defensive stats, which are also very good because guess what?
He's
He's an
good.
amazing player.
He's good.
And so they both have opponents in the future that could hinder their ability to win the Heisman. I will put this note out there that uh, a two-way player has more recently won the Heisman than a running back.
Who was the two-way player?
Charles Woodson,
Oh my God.
or
How
not
did
the Heisman,
I?
or maybe not the Heisman, but like I
I
can't
was
remember
gonna
what the
say I
award
would.
was because Derrick Henry won the Heisman, but
Yeah.
I can't remember what award it was.
And now normally, Heisman goes in the past few years, it's gone to a quarterback. But in this college season, there hasn't been any quarterbacks that I think should win the Heisman.
Even the rare wide receiver Devontae Smith.
Yeah. Yeah. But like as far as quarterbacks go this year, there's no one that is really standing out that I think could win it, if we're being honest here. Is there anyone that you're thinking quarterback wise that could come from nowhere like a dark horse?
Probably Cam Ward, who's projected to be one of the top quarterbacks. There's also Jalen Milroe, uh, obviously. But I think that loss against Vanderbilt might, uh, might
Could
hinder
hinder
that
him.
ability
Yeah.
quite a bit.
I don't
I
think
don't think,
Carson Beck should be in the conversation because of the fact that he's, again, like I've said before, he's only played really well against okay teams. I haven't seen him play really well against a good to very good team, and he struggled against Kentucky. Now, yes, Kentucky's defense is strong, but as you were saying about Milroe and Vanderbilt, you would think that the Kentucky game would hinder any ability for Beck to be in the conversation.
all right, it looks like Cam Ward is third in Heisman voting currently, in early voting. And then fourth is Dylan Gabriel, and then fifth is a surprising uh Indiana quarterback, Curtis Rourke, who is leading his team to a undefeated record currently, which is pretty new or pretty unexpected for Indiana coming into the season.
Indiana's undefeated?
They're 6-0. They are number 16 in the
I would
country.
have never guessed.
They do have well, they should beat Nebraska this Saturday.
The fans can only hope, right? Keep that undefeated streak going.
But they will have key games against Washington, Michigan State, Michigan, and Ohio State in sequential weeks. and they're gonna probably finish off against Purdue. Uh, I
Speaking of
can see them
Purdue,
winning.
Oregon plays Purdue this Friday.
They do. It's a short week for Oregon, which for college football means it's going to be a mixed bag. So Oregon probably shouldn't lose, but you never know. It's a short short weeks are always bound to make something wacky. And plus Purdue has a history of doing things wacky enough to win games against
This is
top opponents.
this is another marquee week of college football. My goodness. Alabama and Tennessee at 3:30, and then our night game, which is the should be the eye catcher and the all eyes should be on it, is Georgia and Texas. And we have LSU and Arkansas before that game, and Kansas State, West Virginia, Texas A&M, and Mississippi State as well, Michigan, Illinois.
Yeah, we'll see if when Ewers can, you know, get back, I mean, keep the streak hot for Texas, keep them at number one, but we'll
I
see.
believe that's all the time we got, right?
Yeah, pretty much. We want to thank you for watching and
Make
listening,
sure to like, subscribe, that notification bell, leave a
and
comment.
if you're at the end, comment 15-yard penalty. We'll see you later.
See
Bye.
ya.